Hi, I'm Jess Boulton from the Daily Mirror. I have the weekly Jess Saying column, and now we're bringing it online so you can all interact with us as well. So welcome, everybody. And today I've got a very special guest with me, Mr. Craig Revel Horwood himself, ready to bring us loads of good Strictly news.
Oh, definitely, darling.
Thank you so much for doing this with us today, Craig. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
If now everybody out there, if you want to put some questions to Craig, we'll be doing some at the end. So just put them in the comments and we'll read them then, and we'll see what we answer. In the meantime, Craig, what's it going to be like going back onto Strictly after it's been so up in the air this year?
I am super excited. I think the BBC have done an incredible thing, putting all the necessary government guidelines in place so people can actually get the show that they want. And I think it's really imperative that we do it for people's mental health and well-being. I mean, it's the only normal thing, it seems, that is going to lead us into the Christmas season. And it's one of those shows that is, heartwarming and gorgeous, and a show that the entire family, of course, can watch. So I think it's a great thing that they're waving the dance flag and actually able to operate the studio in this COVID situation, because it's not easy. Everyone says, how on earth are you going to have two people dancing together from two different families? And of course, but what they're doing is they're forming an exclusive support bubble, which allows them to maintain a one family unit, if you like, and that's how they're doing it, which is just incredible. So whether there's an audience or not is another thing. That depends what happens weekly, but at the moment the plan is to have tables around the studio that are all 2 meters apart, etc., and to then have only 4 people from a family unit sat at each one of them. The judges will be on podiums. I can see you've got a little thing there, so I'm very pleased about that, darling.
I'm looking forward to your podium.
No one can hit me with the paddles or anything. I mean, it's great.
What's it going to be like not having Bruno in the studio?
Oh, I actually love Bruno deeply, because we've been on it since the beginning, obviously, and become the bestest of friends. It's going to be really sad not having him there this year. He is going to be commenting on result shows and things like that from America, and also America finishes before Strictly here finishes, so he'll be there for the semi-final and the final. So we will have him back eventually. You'll be teased with his personality every week anyway, so you'll still get a comment on all the dances from him. The beauty is, darling, he won't be in the studio to spray it and say it. You know what I'm saying? I think if Bruno was in the studio, he'd need a cylindrical sort of glass thing around him, protecting him.
Wearing a hazmat suit.
But I will miss him, and looking forward to hearing his comments anyway on the weekly basis.
He is very effusive with his, like, as you said, he does tend to like spit everywhere and everything with his effusive hand movements.
Yeah, he's quite animated, I think we like to say. Quite animated. But that's the beauty about it, so I will miss that, definitely. But looking forward to seeing him when he gets back from America.
Now, who are you sort of picking as your favourites from this year's lineup? Because we've seen the pictures.
I'm looking forward to seeing Caroline Quentin, of course. I think she's going to be fantastic. I know as an actress, and a presenter and all of that, she must have had some sort of dance training, and she really fits the bill. I think she'll really surprise us. I'm really looking forward to seeing Jamie Lang back as well, of course, because and Bill Bailey, who's just flashed up, darling. I can't wait to see him. Nicola, of course, is going to be great too, and our first pairing with another girl, which would be amazing.
Did you see what Len Goodman said this week about how he thinks it should be just men and women and not same-sex pairs? Which seems
but Len's 76, darling. As they get with the times, darling. 2 people you just have to decide who dances backwards. That's all. That's the only difference.
Exactly. I used to do dancing when I was younger. All you need is somebody to be the lead and the follower. Yeah.
Yeah, but Len's always been a traditionalist in that way. But when you think, during World War II, women were all dancing together. The Argentine tango was originally danced by two men, so it doesn't make any difference for me. I think be all inclusive or get out of the pool, darling.
Fantastic. I love that. That's really good. So what's it going to be like in terms of sitting apart from all the judges? Are you going to have less time to interact with them afterwards? Are you going to be keeping a lot more separate from each other this year, or?
I hope so. Yeah, that's my aim. I don't want to catch anything. But no, I will miss the interaction in that way. Obviously, we'll still be very vocal with one another, and I don't think that will change any of our opinions. And we are very individual, but work as a team. So I think it's going to work really, really well. Don't think the audience will notice too much of a difference. I think it'll feel a lot different in the studio because we're so far apart. But when you cut and edit, you can take camera shots to include sort of everybody, so it looks close. So it will still look an intimate setting, I think, on the TV. It'll just feel a bit odd in the studio.
Yeah. How have you been coping during coronavirus? Have you been out and about much, or is this going to be quite a big step to be filming every week?
It's a big step for me to be going into London because, of course, I was in lockdown in Hampshire in my house there. And the first month I thought was fantastic. And I used it sort of as a break, as a holiday. And I thought, oh, this is, a novelty. And then I thought everything will be back to normal, in the second month. So I really took the time off just to enjoy time off for a change. I was meant to be doing my one-man show, the Old Boulton Glitter Tour, and that was meant to open on the 22nd of May, but that's now been pushed back to the 20th of February. Then I was meant to be doing Strictly Ballroom, the musical with Glitter, of course, and that isn't happening, so that's happening next year. But I really enjoyed it, and I got to learn to work my sit-on mower, and actually did a full study of my washing machine. So I mean, I know that sounds like domesticity and all of that, but I absolutely loved it because normally I'm rushing home, just shoving things in on the wrong programs or whatever, and then having to leave again. So it was nice just to get to know my house, get to spend time with my beautiful partner, of course, Jonathan, and we've been great together and it's been fantastic. So I got time obviously to record a duets album with my friend Rieta. And she recorded her part in New Zealand. I'm recording it here. And I'm got a Christmas single coming out, darling. So we're working on that. Also my book, my first fiction.
We're coming on to your book.
Oh, good.
You've got a nice little picture of your book coming up. Now you've been enjoying writing your novel, haven't you? Because this is great. It's your first novel, Dances on Diamond Street. So can you tell me a little bit about it?
Yeah, it's set in 1994 to be specific, in Camden Town, and there's a lead character in it called Danny Hall, who is a dancer who wants to hang up his dance shoes and become a choreographer. So essentially you're sort of losing, one part of your life, and then you have no idea how to get the next part of it started. So that's his journey, and I know that sounds very similar to me, and it is, Jess. It is. It sort of is me, really, in a way. Because I lived in a house share for 5 years in Camden Town. And this when I came to London, I was trying to make it, or get jobs in the West End and things like that. And it was a challenging time, but a brilliant time to write about, because the only technology we had was a fax machine and pagers at the time. And a lot of people out there won't know what a pager is or what a fax machine is either anymore. But, it meant people had to communicate. And that's what I wrote the book about, communication. Also the trials and tribulations of all these people having to live in, a house in Camden Town, sharing one kitchen, 2 bathrooms, and one was never working, so there's only ever one bar. And it's just the way they're all at their crossroads in their life, and then trying to escape that and become something and really make it in the world. So that's what I've written about. And it's a lot of the stories that I had literally from that time that I couldn't put into my autobiographies. And I thought, what can I do with all these fantastic stories? And I thought, I'll make a work of fiction. I can change all the names. We can still have the stories. I can embellish them. And the beauty about writing it in lockdown was it gives you a sense of creativity and freedom. You know, I love that, and escapism. And I think that's what's good. But I mean, there's lessons to be learned in it as well. You know, there's real life drama. There's real life. Well, it's based on real life. So the characters do ring true, you know, especially to those that read it that were living with me at the time, I expect.
Have you had any phone calls from them saying, read the book?
Yeah, I hope you didn't put that story in. I better not be. I said, no, well, no one will know who it is, hopefully. I mean, obviously, you'll know the character that I'm sort of, that I've written about that's more in tune with my life. But it's, you know, a sort of romp through 1994 in Camden Town, where Camden Town was bohemian. You know, the market stalls weren't just sort of your run of the mill, you know, they're all antique shops and stuff like that. Yeah. And an exciting time for all of us back then as well, because the West End was blooming, you know, there was a lot of work to be had, and it was the fight and battle to win all of that over and try and become a success. And
try and make it and make your name.
Yeah, well, that's it, isn't it? It's a story about that. And plus, it's very much based on, I don't know if anyone's read Tales of the City, and a cross between Tales of the City and Sex in the City. It's sort of but not American, obviously totally British and set in Camden Town. So a lot of fun.
And are you thinking of writing another one? Is there going to be like a whole sequel of these?
Yes, when I sort of got to the end of this one, I went, I really want to know what's going to happen to Danny, the character, obviously, and all the others. You start falling in love with the characters, you know, because there's older characters as well who all live in this sort of arty house together, you know, and they don't always get on like most people, and especially through lockdown. I mean, a lot of people, students, people that have to live in, you know, shared accommodation have had it really tough because they're all working from home. So it's very rare that you've got 6 people in a house all at home together for 24/7, and that is going to bring up fights and arguments and things and problems you've got to solve. So it was great to be able to get a nucleus of characters that had this beautiful, you know, arc to them, and I treated it like a play, really, I suppose, in the way that, you know, you have a beginning, a middle, and an end. Yeah. But when I did get to the end, you really want to know what happens to the rest of the crowd. You know, you want it to continue. So I'm hoping, you know, that I can continue and get another one out there. Actually,
be like the new David Williams, but for adults, maybe.
Yes, for anyone that has ever lived in a house share, there's a lot of people that.
What was your worst memory of that time in real life? What was your worst thing you encountered when you were trying to make it with the rejection?
Yeah, poverty. That was the hardest thing, when you really haven't got enough money to go and buy a pint of milk. I think that was the worst part. And then you had to beg, borrow and steal from people. You know, I don't mean that literally, obviously. Yeah. But, you know, having to ask your flatmates, you know, for a tenner, you know, just so you go and do your weekly shop. I think, you know, that was the hardest thing. But it does make you tough, and it does make you form a family unit together, you know, and trust one another, I think, you know, to not only pay the money back, but to thank people for helping you out, which happened to me, most certainly. And I think that was the toughest thing, you know, if you couldn't afford your rent. And then the pressure would be on from everyone else because they're not going to sub you. You know, you can't expect people to. So I think that was probably the toughest thing I had to do. But then, thankfully, I was there for 5 years and managed to save enough for a deposit for my own house, which I bought up the road. And that was a godsend. You know, it really was. So I thank them for building, you know, not only my strength, I suppose, is what I'm talking about. You know, I think it's really important to have those sort of friends, and they remain friends to this very day. So I'm extremely fortunate.
Until they read it.
Until they read it. No, they'll love it. Come on. I wish I wrote their real names in there.
But now, obviously, completely different world. You've been on Strictly for, what is it now? It's on series 18 this year.
Yeah, it's unbelievable, isn't it? The first one was in May 2004. Then we did 2 series that year, because then they decided to do a Christmas one, and then it remained at Christmas from that moment on, and has gone to 60 countries worldwide. Mongolia making up the 60th, I think 2 weeks ago, and has broken the Guinness Book of World Records for the most produced format in the world. I mean, it's amazing. When we first started, we had no clue that it would be so popular. In fact, Len Goodman and I gave it literally 3 weeks, darling. We didn't think it lasted. That's it. It's gone. The audience won't like it, you know. And who's going to want to watch a celebrity that can't dance with a professional that's been dancing since the age of 3 all their lives? And are they going to be any good at the end of it? Well, some are, some aren't, but still, it won the hearts and minds of the nation. And I think, you know, may it long continue.
Who was one of your favourites from of the finalists?
Of all the finalists, I think the person that changed the face of Strictly and contestants was Jill Halfpenny, and that was in series 2, and it was the first time ever that I'd given out of 10. Series 1, I never gave any 10s because they were all, well, I thought they were all rubbish, of course, but in fact, they probably were back then. But Jill Halfpenny came on and did this jive, and it was just phenomenal. It really was, and my jaw dropped to the floor. I just couldn't believe it. And
even now, I can remember it. As soon as you say jive and Jill Halfpenny, you're just like, yeah.
Well, she set the benchmark for absolutely every other celebrity that came on the program. And since then, I mean, excuse me, it has flourished and got bigger and better every year. You know, so thank you, Jill Halfpenny. And it was nice to actually get my 10 up for the first time.
I bet it was. I'm glad you're not too stingy with the 10s, but obviously. What's that feeling like? It must be like, what am I going to give them? Do you?
No, I don't. No, I just do it on merit. I don't do it on power play. I'm not into that. I think it should just all be based on, you know, their journey and the merit, you know, that they have shown for that particular 1 minute 30. I can't backtrack. I can't say, oh, you've been good up until now, so we'll give you 10. Obviously, you know, I just have to base a decision as a proper judge, you know, and do it on whether they're good or bad. But I love giving the 10s out. It's just I find it's very rare that I see an opportunity to do it.
I'd be terrified to dance in front of you. Honestly, I think I'll probably get.
You would like it, just come on. This program is going to take off, and you're going to get millions and millions and millions of viewers, and then you'll be famous enough to come on the show.
But will I be disqualified because I did a bit of ballroom dancing when I was younger?
No, of course not. Because have you ever done Charleston, Argentine tango, contemporary?
No.
So there you go. I mean, some people that are trained in classical ballet come on the show, but they have no idea or concept how to do the rumba or any of the Latin or ballroom dances. So anytime anyone says, oh, they've had dance training, I just say, oh, so what? You have to unlearn it. I think that's the most difficult thing.
Because there's quite a lot they say, like Caroline Quentin's obviously done a little bit of dance training when she was younger. Bill Bailey, surprisingly enough, he did ballroom dance training when he was a teen, which surprised me.
I can't wait to see him do contemporary.
I know. I think no offense to Bill Bailey, but it wasn't yesterday he was doing his ballroom dancing. So I think, you know, it's a lot for him to learn still. So who's been your worst contestant ever, if I couldn't guess?
Well, there have been several, I have to admit. Quentin Wilson, I named Britain's worst dancer. Then we had the pleasure of John Sargent, and that was pretty bad. But then I think the piece de resistance has to be Anne Widdecombe.
Yeah.
But you know what? As much as I say the worst dancer, I mean, she really couldn't hear the music and all of that. And of course, she was my nemesis throughout the entire series. But she was brave, and she got up there and provided an awful amount of wonderful entertainment for the show and for everyone at home. She is the only one that I still look on YouTube and play because it's funny as. And plus, I did 2 years in Panto with her, and I amalgamated every single lift that Anton ever did with her, and I put that in the Strictly Come Dancing live tour where I danced with her myself, and that, and also in Panto for 2 years with her, and it was great. You know, it was fantastic. It was sort of like the Laurel and Hardy, darling, I suppose. You know, or an older dancing version of Anton Deck.
I love that. You could take them on at the NTAs.
That's it. Come on.
Now, obviously, tomorrow night it's the best of final show before the launch show proper the following week. And in a serious moment, there is going to be a tribute for Caroline Flack in it. Has that been hard to film?
I think, I found it really difficult because we were filming it. I was in my living room filming, you know, all the outtakes and you know, just the visual for it. And when it came to the tribute to Caroline, it was so heartbreaking. I was just thinking how amazing she was as a dancer, and she also came on tour with us, so I got to know her quite well in that period when we were you know, traveling the country in arenas after the year that of course she'd won that series. And she was just such a beautiful woman and dancer, and it was heart-wrenching, and I found it really difficult to talk about her without welling up. I really did. I had to really get myself together actually for that one, because it was a shock, I think, to not only us and the people on Strictly, but everyone that has ever worked with her, and of course the audience that loved her at home as well. So I think a fitting tribute to a really special and wonderful person.
Yeah. I think that's. I'm looking forward to seeing it tomorrow night, because I think that's it's great that you're doing it and acknowledging it before the series starts properly, and a little bit of joy to everybody again, like you said, for the run of Christmas. So we were also going to have a little chat about some of the showbiz stories of this week that we've loved, not necessarily the big ones, just the ones that really made us laugh of this week.
Okay.
So if you're happy to have a little chat, so we've done a little countdown. So at number 5, I've got my little graphics here. We've done a sparkly ball just for you.
Oh, I love that. Thank you, darling.
And number 5, I'm a Celebrity. Now, obviously, not only have they had to move to Wales because of the coronavirus in the castle there, but it got flooded over the weekend. So it sounds like it's going to be an absolutely miserable time for any of the celebs that have signed up for it.
Yeah, that looks pretty bad, doesn't it?
Compared to signing up for Australia in the 19th.
Yeah, that's going to be a swimathon, isn't it? And like Glastonbury.
It is rather. No, AJ has been not confirmed, but strongly suggested he's going to be on the show. How do you think he's going to do?
Oh, I can't see AJ eating grubs or anything like that. I really can't. I think he'll shy away from all of that. I know he's going to try and be strong and be butch and big and bold, but I can't see that happening. I really can't. He'll look pretty.
he'll probably get some nice votes from out there. Oh no, yeah, because we're not going to have any of the I'm a Celeb shower scenes or anything like that this year, are we? Because it's going to be.
Then he's got no chance of winning it, darling, if he can't get his kit off.
Exactly. You picked the wrong year.
I don't know. Well, I mean, you know, you have to remember he's a professional dancer, and they go through hell most of the time in the fact that they're training all the time. It's mentally, physically exhausting job. So I think a challenge for him like this, a physical one, will be absolutely fine. I think it'd be great at doing all that. And plus, it's great. It's a bit of eye candy, and I think you need a bit of that as well.
You always need a bit of eye candy. Now, on number 4 on our little countdown, now, one of the stories I loved this week was Sir Rod Stewart talking about his ongoing feud with Sir Elton John. 2 knights of the realm at each other's throats, 2 legends. It started, and maybe correct me, Greg, but I believe it started because Rod called Elton's farewell tour he was planning to do not very rock and roll, which is obviously insulting, I guess, if you're a musical icon.
Well, yeah, that's a huge insult, isn't it? I mean, that's really sort of it's almost like stabbing someone in the back, but in the front, with a major wordy insult. I think, they should not fight about something like that. I think that's petty, really. And if they can't get over it, I mean, I read somewhere that, I don't know, was it Rod invited Elton over for a football game or something? Either accept it, or at least write back and say, no, I'm not entirely into football. Can we change it to an afternoon tea? Or something.
I would say if anyone did that to me, I'd just be like, yeah, no thanks.
No thanks. I'll have the afternoon tea with the free champagne, thank you. Yeah, and we'll get over it. I think, it's a silly sort of view to have. I mean, it's great. It's good public fodder, though, isn't it? I mean, it makes great headlines. But I think I would never I wouldn't ghost anyone like that. I wouldn't ghosted
anyone like that.
I'd always answer back, and always say, look, thank you so much for the invitation. I'd like to decline it, and I'd like to put this story to rest. I mean, I don't think, what is the point? It's only going to set up more feuding, I think, if you ignore it. It really will, just make it right. It's
just
very
answer, make it right.
They're so rich. Why would they need to do all of that? I mean, I would sit back, enjoy your life, and get on with it, and retire. Get your wheelchairs out and retire. In a nice, fashionably way.
Exactly. You can have some nice sort of old rockers home where they go and just drink champagne all day.
No, that's wonderful. Can that happen for dancers as well? I might set one up here, darling.
I think you should.
I'll be needing the income.
Have you ever had a big feud with somebody like that?
No, only about Strictly, but that gets out of hand. Of course I have, because people don't like my criticisms, and you're always going to be arguing with people about that if you allow that to happen. Look, they're only ever my opinions, so I just let it, go off, water off a duck's back. Really, I think it's crazy to fight over things, but of course people are going to get upset with me because I'm judging them, and I know that, and that just makes it even worse. But I've had family feuds, of course I have, with my sisters, but we always resolve it in a way. And, it's silly. I mean, there was a moment, with one of my sisters where I had a bit of an argument with her. And then I pretended I wasn't going to speak to her for a year. But that, of course, doesn't happen, does it? So,
how long did you last?
And, I thought, right, I'm going to do that. That's like a child stamping their foot and saying, I'm not going to do this anymore. So I think it's ridiculous. And I say, get over it or get out.
You come up with some excellent criticisms, constructive criticisms on Strictly. But how do you come up with some of them? Some of them are so imaginative.
I think it's just what you actually see before you, and that ignites a comment. Because you can't really make anything up beforehand, only because you haven't seen it. And plus you have to react to whatever you see live. So I think it's really important, and that's why it's improvised. I don't think I could do a whole list, if I had a book, a whole list of insults. That just doesn't work. And that's not about insulting people. It's about correcting them. And I think it's just my manner of correction, like I do as a director and a choreographer. I speak honestly to the dancer, and I always try and make it about of how, using your imagination, in the fact that you use animal imagery sometimes to say, oh, can you do that move more like a panther prowling? Or you need to be a little bit heavier. It needs to be more sort of elephant weighted, on the left foot. And that just makes people laugh, or they think that I've insulted them and called them an elephant, which is crazy. But in dance, we use animal imagery all the time.
I particularly liked when you said to someone that they looked like a slug insult with the way
about.
Yeah.
That's about.
That
sort
was
of
one of
dramatic.
my favourites. Like,
I use that with my dancers when they're uncontrolled, darling, or their arms aren't doing what they're meant to be doing and flailing about. I say it's just a normal expression, I would say. But then you see some of the celebs take it personally, and they shouldn't. It's
they're just too precious, clearly.
they clearly would not want to be in one of my shows when I'm directing.
Really not. Number 3 is Brooklyn Beckham. Wedding plans.
Yeah.
There was some stuff today around about exactly what he's planning for his wedding. Now, I can't believe he's actually getting married already. This was David and Victoria, which doesn't seem like long ago at all, but was in fact over 20 years ago in 1990.
Well, I just had that baby, I thought.
I know. And now look at him. He's getting ready to get married.
I know, it's amazing.
Now, the plans, apparently he's going to have his brothers Romeo and Cruz as his best men, and Harper's going to be a bridesmaid, no shocker there, and Victoria to do the dress. Do you think Nicola, his fiance, had any choice in that matter?
No, I don't think she did. I really don't think she did. It might be nice to get at least one person outside the family in, you know, and especially for your best man, because you want someone up there that's going to be funny and tell the truth, don't you? And shock everyone, shock the family, you know. So it's a bit weird having a brother. I think that's a sort of safety net, isn't it? And I think it's great. I mean, keep it in the family. Why not? I wouldn't probably do that personally, and I wouldn't be using those thrones either.
I was going to say the thrones, should they have a comeback?
No, I wouldn't be using them, darling. I'd want something different, you know, something unique, and something that's going to say, "Oh, this is my wedding, not you reliving your own."
What are you? Because obviously you've said that you're going to put your wedding on hold for a couple of years so you can have a proper big celebration. Have you thought of any plans yet? Anything?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously we're planning things for a more immediate scenario, but that's not going to happen because obviously nothing this year can happen. Everyone's weddings have been postponed to next year, and then I'm thinking it'll have to be the year after, to be honest, you know, to be able to get the staffing and the, you know, just to get everything together, you know, the hire of the tables, but we want to do it at home, and we'd like to do it in the forest, you know, and have something really lovely there, and then maybe have a marquee, you know, in one of the paddocks. I know that doesn't sound very glamorous, but the paddocks might have grown better because we're trying to plant some grapes in there, you know, vines to make it look beautiful. And of course, to make wine, naturally. So it'd be really good to have a lot of people. I really want to celebrate with all my family, you know, because they would have to come to Australia. Jonathan, my fiance, has a massive family as well. In fact, the same amount of people. So it'd be so hard. I mean, for the people that have to do it now, who have to choose 15 people, like you could have 30 and they can only have 15. I mean, what 15 do you say you're not coming? Do you say, sorry, Mum, you're not coming because I want my mate to come? Or, you know, who do you knock off the list? I think that'd be worse, to be invited. Everyone's bought their outfits and then suddenly you've got to scratch 15 people out. So I'm going to wait.
You're telling them that they don't matter as much to you. They're on the B list. I mean,
well, that's essentially what happens.
What if it changes again and you can have 30? Those people aren't going to come back.
No, it's not, because they know that they're second-rate citizens.
So are you going to start producing the Craig Revel Horwood wine when you mentioned your vine?
Yes, I am, darling. I am. Well, hopefully. I mean, we've got to get it growing, but and nice. Otherwise, I'm putting other people's champagne into my label. So there you go.
I think that's a good plan. That's definitely a good plan. Right. And number 2, we have Rebel Wilson's amazing makeover. Obviously, we've seen her over the few months. This was Rebel Wilson, as we knew and loved her with Pitch Perfect and the other films. She's now lost an incredible 7 stone. And she looks amazing. I mean, she just looks absolutely stunning. She was one of the people that always said she didn't really care about her weight. She was happy how she was. But she's sort of done the same as Adele, and she's, you know, absolutely massive transformation. It's a shame in a way, because she was sort of an ambassador for larger ladies. What do you think about?
Well, I think it's individual, isn't it? Weight is an issue for a lot of people. And I think it comes down to whether you want to lose it or whether you're happy as you are. I mean, obviously these people we're talking about have become famous as being, you know, the larger lady, and especially Rebel in that way. You know, all her characters are based on that. So now she's going to have to go for different types of parts. You know, you won't be able to play the same sort of roles. You know, look, some people, like actors, obviously lose weight for specific roles and put weight on for specific roles. Toni Collette, you know, in Muriel's Wedding, ended up putting on like 3 stone in order to play that role, and then losing it, of course, and then everyone's saying she's getting too thin. But that's her naturally. But unnaturally, she was, you know, put on the weight so she could play the role. So she's going to have to think clearly about which direction she wants her acting to go in, you know, and what sort of role she wants to play. And Adele, because she's an amazing singer, of course, it doesn't really matter for her, you know, as long as she's personally happy.
She just looks amazing. I mean, both of them have said they've done it for health reasons.
Yeah.
Rebel has been putting out some amazing videos. She was working out with like a magnum-sized bottle of vodka. It's going to work out, I feel.
I can't see how that's going to work, but still. It might give you Dutch courage to get on the treadmill, but I can't imagine that you're going to stay for very long on the treadmill, to be honest.
Probably flatten your face with a few sort of line marks where it's down.
Yes, one off the end. No, it's well, you can't obviously drink and work out. That doesn't work. It really doesn't. And plus, if you want to lose weight, seriously, drinking's not the answer because it's so calorific. And plus, it slows your metabolism down. All of those things, you know. So it's not a great sort of advice to go for if you want to lose weight. I think the best thing to do is probably do what Rebel actually did do and be on a controlled, you know, diet of foods that you love, that you can eat lots of. You know, I think that's the important thing. You've got to really love the food that you're eating, and it's important to know what the foods are, you know, that you love, that are okay to eat a lot of, you know.
It's a funny thing in a way that there's a sort of correlation between the larger actresses are always doing the funny parts. It's like you're not funny as a woman unless you're a little bit fat. It kind of seems that way, doesn't it? Like, because everyone was.
Well, no, that's only because. Well, I think only because you're looking at people that are comedians in this country, I suppose, you know, and being cast as that. So that goes down to casting, and I think direction. You know, I think that's the point I'm making. You don't have to be fat to be funny. You really don't.
Exactly.
You know, Catherine Tate is a perfect example. You know, someone that's humongously funny. Patsy and Adina.
Very true.
Joanna Lumley's not a big porker, is she, darling?
I was thinking like McCarthy and all that.
No, it's all character driven, and so is comedy in that way. You know, and I think, you know, you shouldn't be judged for it. And whatever weight you are, be who you want to be, and be proud of whatever you are. I think that's the important. I mean, you've got to love yourself primarily, don't you? And I think, you know, if you don't, then there's something wrong. And that's where you need to revisit, I think, is the psychology behind it all. But good on her for wanting, you know, Rebel I'm talking about, wanting to be fitter. And plus you'll get maybe glamour roles now, you know, so you just don't know, you know, and leading lady ones rather than comedy roles. Who knows?
Exactly. Moving on to number 1. Favorite story of the week is Davina McCall is going to be taking over the new changing rooms. It's very sad that it's not Carol Smiley back. She did say that she would quite like to come back again.
I like Carol Smiley as well.
Yeah.
Did she get a smile, darling? I mean, what happened?
Maybe she got too many smile lines for it. I don't know. But so Davina's going to be taking it, and Davina's great. Oh, you love Davina as well. And Lawrence Llewellyn-Bowen is back. But the big question is, who is actually going to agree to be on this show? Because if we remember some of the old looks from Changing Rooms.
Yeah, I remember them. Because don't they change them in like 60 minutes?
They take longer. This is the one where they so you've got your 2 teams, so your neighbours come in and change your room for you.
Oh no, I wouldn't trust that at all.
But some of the designs have been quite special. Let's say there was a. If anyone didn't know what MDF was before changing rooms, you certainly did afterwards.
Yeah.
So I think we've got some of the designs to show that we can show you, Craig, see what you think of them, see if you think you'd want them in your house.
Okay, good.
Now, this is a lovely bedroom.
Something to died there, darling. Isn't it? Looks like something's just died on a bed of nails.
So this is nice little nails around the bed. Why would you want nails around the side of the bed?
Some people are kinky, Jess. They're into that sort of thing, and each their own. It's a very private space. If I came home to that, I don't think I'd be happy. I've got to admit.
What would Jonathan say if you redecorated the bedroom that way?
He'd say no. I'd be divorced before we were married.
The only thing I did like was the champagne bucket in the corner. But,
yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, champagne bucket in the corner. I can live with that, definitely.
We got another one here, trees upside down in the bedroom, which is an interesting look.
Well, yeah, because it's going to die. Trees can't live like that, upside down, obviously. So that's just going to create a mess. And it's going to be awful, isn't it? But they're probably fake. If they're fake, even worse.
Even worse. It's even worse. You're right.
Yeah, super worse.
And I think what's our last one? Yes. This is another level, really, isn't it?
Yeah, well, that's a big old boudoir, isn't it? I mean, I personally wouldn't want it. I'd probably use it in a murder mystery movie or something. You know, once all those statues are splattered with blood, you know, it might make it look a bit sort of more horror story. I think, you know, as a set, it's probably okay. I wouldn't want it as a real room. I think it's a little bit disconcerting. And plus, they're flat statues. I mean, if
they're made out of MDF.
They're on MDF backing. Yeah. They're I'm assuming that's trompe l'oeil and it's painted on, which is even worse. So no, darling. No. If you can't have the real thing, don't have it. Just go for IKEA linear lines.
Indeed. Would you be letting Lawrence Llewellyn Bowen in your house to do a bit of
to be honest, I probably wouldn't. But if I had to, and if I had a choice, if I didn't have a choice and I had to have him do a room, it would be I'd get him to maybe do the upstairs, my loft, because that does need some attention. And I don't mind it being camp like that, you know, because it's sort of out the way. And plus, it's mainly a gym. So he'd be limited. He'd be very limited as what he could do.
Right, brilliant. We've got some viewers' questions now coming up on the side here. So they're just going to let us know if you're happy to take a few questions.
Naturally.
All right, our first one, hang on. So the first one is, where do you find the time to fit everything in? That's from Sharon Rennie.
Scheduling. I have a real thing about what I do every single day, and I plan it weeks in advance. Even in lockdown, I planned what time I was doing lunch, what time dinner was going to happen, also what time I would mow, what time I would do this, what time I would use for writing. I'm not completely anal about it, but I do like to be well planned, and I like to fit in as much as I possibly can. And plus, in my diary, I also put time to relax, or I'll put gin and tonics in the garden, you know, for instance. And so I just have to plan it well, and I sort of enjoy that. I think that's been part of my life as a dancer, because you always you can't be late for rehearsals, otherwise you get sacked. So you know, it's not a normal job in that way. You're part of a company, so you all have to turn up. So it's very a disciplined job, and it's very much based on time and effect. So I think that's probably where I get it from.
Yeah. And who would you most like to see on Strictly? And that's come from Emma Donnan.
Emma, Simon Cowell. I think he'd be great contestant on Strictly. That would be the best thing ever.
He would.
Ever.
that. I mean, he's got to admit now that the X Factor has kind of lost the battle.
Well, it's dropped a bit, yes, but there's always Strictly.
Exactly. Are you a little bit smug that you completely won the Strictly X Factor battle that's been raging over the years?
Well, no, not really. I think there's room for both. I mean, I love talent shows because a lot of the time I look at the talent that goes on X Factor and I can book them for my theatre gigs. As a director, I'm always talent spotting, and it's a great way to find new talent. So I promote all of that, like Britain's Got Talent, X Factor, anything that gets young people out there, or people, that aren't famous out there, that have incredible talents, and people that I can actually cast in my shows. So I can only encourage it. I think it's probably just a format thing, that needs changing. But who knows? I'd promote all of those type of shows because I need
you as a judge on the panel. I think that would be the answer.
There you go.
And we got another one here, nice one. Jess Colley has asked, what is the nicest gift you've ever received from a fan?
The nicest gift. I was made a Christmas bauble when I was doing Panto. And it was amazing. It was all the shows I'd ever done, like on a globe.
Yeah.
Like so intricate. They were so small and pasted on like like a map of the world.
Yeah.
But my entire career on one Christmas bauble. I couldn't believe it. That was really cool. So thank you.
That was a lovely gift.
Yeah.
I mean, what did you do?
I've had some really great ones actually. I'm very lucky.
You are.
They're always telling me off for ignoring them. I'm not huge on the Twitter and I'm not huge on Instagram in the way that I don't devote, huge amount of time to it.
Yeah, it gets too much. Well, do you get competitive with Shirley and Motzi about who's more popular and who's come out with the best comments that week?
No, I don't care. I just react to what I see, And anyway, I'm the best one, I think.
Obviously, you're the best one. You've been there since the beginning. You're really
darling.
What would you do? It'd be nothing. We'll go on one last question here from Vicky Leyland. She's asking how the Strictly Ballroom is coming along. Obviously, you mentioned it earlier.
Yeah. Coming along really well. We've had time now. We've had a lot more time, like 6 months to really plan the production, plan the lighting, all of these things that we can do in advance. So I'm trying to treat it as a positive thing because all of us would have been so busy up until that point. This time we've got actually quite a long time to cast it properly, to, as I say, do all the technical side of it and make it really amazing. So that's what I'm looking forward to. I can't wait for theatre to start back again. I really can't. I'm just desperate for it.
It's such a difficult time for all the performers at the moment, and it's going to be a long time before it's back to normal, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. But there is hope, and there are different ways of doing theatre, as we all know. Yeah. I mean, look, you've created your own TV show now, haven't you, on this particular platform, darling? And there are ways and means of doing everything, and maybe that's what we'll have to do. But I'm hoping that with social distancing, we can bring all the shows back and people go back to see their favorite celebs and all their favorite characters in the musicals that I love so very, very much. So I'm crossed all the way, and I'm looking to a bright future and a better future.
That's fantastic. I'll tell you one theatre I'm going to be going to when we can. There's one up in Berkshire that George Clooney apparently is a regular attendee at and has donated some money to keep it running.
Oh, so great.
I think I should be going there regularly if he's a regular attendee.
I'll go with you, Jess, definitely.
We'll buy seats for every night just in the hope we can get near him.
Oh, yeah.
And I'll break social distancing for George Clooney, don't you think?
No, you wouldn't.
I wouldn't, actually.
You could actually catch up from him more than anyone else.
Yeah, exactly.
For so many people.
Exactly. It'd be quite good. Thank you so much for everything, Craig. I've really appreciated you having you on.
No, I've enjoyed it enormously. Thank you for listening as well and watching us.
Yes, thank you, everybody. And don't forget about Craig's book, because I'm going to be starting to read it this afternoon.
Oh, yeah, you'll love it. You won't be able to put it down.
I won't be able to. I know. All right. Thank you, Craig. I've had a brilliant time. Thank you. Right.